What's up, everybody? Welcome to the React Router crash course. In this video, I'm just going to take you from beginning to end and show you everything you need to know so you can start using React Router in your applications. There's going to be timestamps in the description as well as chapters in the video so you can skip ahead to sections that you already know or maybe you don't really care about. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what is React Router and what is its purpose. React Router is a solution for client-side routing in a React application. So in order to know what client-side routing is, you need to know what server-side routing is, which is pretty much the standard for the web, and it has been for a long time. So normally, server-side routing is, I'll give you an example. It's like when you're on Amazon and you're on Amazon.com and you're just scrolling through the things on the shop, and you click on the top and you click on My Past Orders. And when you click on that, let's say your internet is slow, and when you click on it, you see a white screen on your browser, and then it takes a while, but then eventually your orders start showing up. That would be a great example of server-side routing, whereas every time you go to a new page in a website, your browser has to request that HTML from the server, pull it back down, and then display it on the screen. That's how it is normally. And that's called server-side routing. However, in client-side routing, it's a little bit different. So that HTML that you had to download to then show that stuff on the screen, when you're doing client-side routing, you already have that HTML before the user actually tries to go to that screen. So when the user clicks on My Orders, and if it's client-side routing, it would be an immediate switch of a page because there is no network connection going on because the HTML had already been downloaded previously. So I wrote it down here. Basically, it switches pages and replaces the HTML without having to wait for the server. And it's different from the standard way of routing where the request is sent after trying to navigate to a new page. So in client-side routing, the request to get that HTML is sent before the user navigates to the page. How does it work? Well, we're going to go over how it works in Create React App for this example, but other frameworks do it in a similar way, a little bit different though. But we're going to go over how it's done in Create React App. So in Create React App, when you send that initial request to your website, the JavaScript is sent over to the browser, and that JavaScript contains all the code that you need to go to every page in your website. So basically, if you think about it, it's like you're downloading every single page of your website with that first request. There's pros and there's cons to that. Next.js does this a little bit more elegantly, but that's out of the scope of this video. We're going to talk about how just Create React App handles this. And these are things that you need to know so you can advance in your developer journey when you're using React. So it works basically, you send that initial request, you have all the code that you need to go to every page. Now the user is on your website and they click on My Past Orders. They click it, the JavaScript detects it. So it says, okay, they click this button, let's switch their page. So first thing it does, it changes the URL that the user has in the browser. And this is just to like emulate kind of that they're going to a new page when they're really not. After it changes the URL in the browser, JavaScript detects that the URL is changed and it displays different HTML on the screen depending on the URL. So the user really isn't going to a new page. The JavaScript just matches the URL to certain HTML, and it just does that. And that's why they're called single page applications, because they're really on just one page that gets changed with every URL path. There really is only one page. So there's some pros to this, like I mentioned. So one of the big pros a lot of people like is it's very fast and snappy. So when you go to a new page, it's pretty much instant. You don't have to wait. You don't see a white screen. Your browser doesn't refresh. So it's really, really snappy. Fast page transitions. So it's basically the same thing that I mentioned when I said it's very snappy. There's no refresh, there's no white screen, and it kind of has like a mobile app feel. It feels very nice for the user. However, there's some cons. There's always a cost. Guys, when it comes to technology, there is no perfect solution to anything. There's always the downsides. So the downsides of this when you first send that first request to your website, you're downloading all the pages of the application immediately. And most of the times, users of your website do not go to every page of your website. So you are downloading JavaScript that is pretty much not going to be used. And that's just pretty burdensome. It causes some latency with that first request, and it's unnecessary. And I'm talking about Create React App here. Next.js handles this completely differently, and I'll probably make a video talking about just Next.js. I'm talking about Create React App, guys. And yeah, performance. It's hard on performance with that first request. Your user might have to wait a while before they see anything on the screen when they first go to your website. But then after they go to it, they'll go to every page and it'll be instant. That's pretty much the basics you need to know about how client-side routing is done in React Router. So let's go over to and start some examples, and we're going to do that in the next section of this video. Alright, so for this video, I'm assuming you have some experience with React, or at least know how it should work. I'm not going to go over the very basics of React, so I'm just assuming you already know it. So I already ran Create React App, and I have this little dummy application set up just for this video. And don't worry if you see it's in dark mode and everything, that has nothing to do with our video. I just have that set up to make it a little bit easier on the eyes. So the first thing that you need to do to set up React Router is actually install it into your application. A surprise, wow, I know. But anyways, I'm gonna use Yarn. I'm gonna do yarn add. Normally you would do npm I and then the name, right? So you do that, and then it's react-router-dom, right? And you can just press enter, but I'm gonna do @6. So I'm specifying that I want the newest version, which in 2022 as of now is version 6. So I'm gonna add that to my application. Now I'm gonna restart my React application, and we can go ahead and get started. So the first thing you need to do to actually have access to the React Router functionality is you need to grab a certain component. So I'm gonna import it up here, and it's called browser router. So just import browser router from React Router DOM, right? And so all you need to do is go to your top level of your application. Here I'm doing it in app.js, and you just want to wrap your entire application, or wherever you're going to be using React Router, it needs to be a child of this browser router component, or else it's not going to work. So here I'm going to make my app render a browser router, and then my app can be a child of it. So here I could just say hi, right? So that's the first thing you need to do to actually start using React Router. And so yeah, the setup is pretty simple, and in the next section I'm gonna show you how to make some basic routes in your application. Okay, so now we can actually start defining some routes in our application. And to do that, all you need to do is render a specific component, and it's called the routes component. So here in this route component is where we're going to define specific routes for every path of our application. So like we're going to register a path called home/home, another one called /about, right? And so according to those paths, we specify a route that will render according to that path. So to do that, very simply, inside of the routes component, you render another component called route, singular, just route. And then here, like that, here is where you specify using props. So it takes one prop called path, right? And here you can just specify a string. And in our case, we're gonna call it /home, right? What do you want to render? Well, it takes another prop called element, and it takes in JSX. So you pass it in like that. And let's say I want to just render a div that says, hi, I'm home. So now we've created this route, and you might be thinking, well, why is nothing rendering on my screen? And that's because we haven't, in our browser, we're not going to this route. Here, up here, it just says /. So when we go over here to /home, then we see hi, I'm home. But when we're not there, we don't see it. So you might be wondering, well, how do I make something show by default? And that's where something called an index route comes in handy. So I'm going to copy this line and paste it, right? And instead of specifying a path down here, I'm going to change it up, and I'm actually going to just type in the word index, just like that. And here I'm going to change it to, let's say, please log in. So let's say user's not logged in, and we show them this by default. When I save that, see it shows please log in. And when I go to /home, it shows me this element, which is hi, I'm home. So let's just create another route real quick, just so we can get the hang of this. And I'm just gonna paste it right here, and I'm gonna call it /about. And here in this JSX, it's gonna say about me. So now when we navigate to /about, it shows about me. Now there is another way that you can organize your routes instead of just sticking them in your app component. And that would be by creating another component called view.jsx, or views, sorry. And then I'm gonna create that template for a component. And then you would actually be rendering all your routes in here. And then you would be returning this JSX. And then you could simply just import like we had before, like so. And so over here, instead of rendering all that, you would just render your views. And that's kind of a better way of doing this, so you don't clutter your app component, which is the top level of your application. So now from now on, we're just going to be making our routes in this views component here. Let's say a user goes to a route that doesn't exist, like one called hello. That doesn't exist, so nothing is shown. We can actually make it so that we show something on the screen when the user goes to a route that doesn't exist. Maybe you want to show a page that says 404 not found, or something along those lines. We can do that pretty easily in React Router. So over here, I'm just going to copy this line. And in the path, you would stick in there an asterisk or star. And then render here 404 not found. Like so. And so now when we go to /hello, it renders 404 not found. When we go to /hello2, basically this matches any path. How it works is that React Router tries to match the index path. If it doesn't match, it tries to look for another path that matches. And if it doesn't find one, it just considers the asterisk. And if you don't have an asterisk, it doesn't put anything. But if you do, it'll put whatever you specified in the element prop. Now let's look at how you can make some nested routes. All that we've been doing now is making it so when you go to /home, you see a certain component rendered on the screen. What about when you go to /home/me? Well, it doesn't match with anything because React Router says, okay, let's look for /home/me. So this is /home, this is /about. Oh, there's no such thing as /home/me, so there is nothing to render. And we can actually fix that. So I want to make it so that there's a /post route to see posts and a /post/1 to see the first post. So to do that, I'm going to copy over this route and put it as /post. And just delete the element tag. And then as a child of this, we can make another route. And then this one will have the path equal to 1. Notice how there's no slash there. Okay, notice that. And then here we want to render, let's say, just a div that says, hi, this is post 1. Okay, so now when we go to /posts, and this has to have an s, /post/1, we see, hi, this is post 1. So basically React Router says, okay, we found /post, but we still need the /1. it sees, okay, it has a child. Let's see if any of them have 1. There's no slash here because the slash would mean, okay, we're looking for just /1. React Router knows that this is a child, and it looks after this when there's no slash here. So if you just put /1, it's not going to work. How it used to be in previous versions, you would have to here put /post/1, and it would still work like that. So it still works just like that. It's matching /post. It's saying, okay, let's look for children. This one matches as well, so let's render this element. But there's a more elegant way to do it, and that's just by omitting the slash, and then React Router knows that this is relative to the previous parent route. So it just assumes that this is added onto this. Hopefully that made sense. Now let me just show you a little bit of a different scenario. So what if you want to render in this post, you want to render something like these are the posts of the day, and then you want to render post 1 under that. At the moment, how we have everything set up, it's not going to work. The reason being is that React Router, when it matches /post, it checks, is there an element to render? It then renders the element, and that's it right there. But there is a way that React Router has for us for that we can render this as well. So that would be by using this component called an outlet component. So here we import the outlet component, right? And you might have seen the change immediately. So let me explain what happened. It matched /post, it rendered the element. The outlet component, what that does is it says, okay, so is there any children of this component that matches the route in the URL? If there is, render it right here. So it replaces the outlet with this element down here of the child of this route. So React Router matches this route, sees that there's an outlet, and looks for another route to stick in the outlet. So now we have, these are the posts of the day, and the outlet that matched, which is this one, hi, this is post 1 on top. And of course you can move it down, now it's on bottom. Whatever you want to do is fine. And here if we change this to say 2, see, when we go to /post/1, it doesn't match. And we can actually do what we did earlier. So here we can render a star and do no post found. And see, it says here no post found because it matches with the star. Let's say that we want to make it so that a user can go to /post and /any number, and it doesn't matter what number it is, it's still going to render the component, and then we have access to this number in our component so that we can then, let's say, send a request to the database and render different data accordingly. And we can do that pretty easily. And I'm just going to get rid of this right here. And instead of rendering this 2 here, what we would do is replace that with colon and the name of our parameter. So here we can call it ID. Basically, all we're doing is we're giving this number or whatever goes after posts, which would be here, we're just naming it ID. And see, it's going to match this because React Router says when it sees that colon, it says, okay, the next value up here can be anything. As long as there's something there, it's going to match with this route. So now I'm just going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it posts.jsx. And I'm just going to show you what we can do with these dynamic routes. So here we would render the post component. And so over here in our post component, then we can do const params is equal to use params. So using the use params hook from React Router, we have access to this value up here. So now we can render, simply we can just render params.id. And there it is. We have access to this up here, and this .id is basically matching the whatever we named it in here. So if we change this to say ID1, it's not going to render, but if we change here to ID2, oh no, ID1, I named it, there it renders again. So that's how you do dynamic routes. And let me just show you something real quick. So let's say I want to route for the first post and then a different route for the ID. And in the first post, I'll just render, like we had before, a div that says, we'll have it say first post. So you might be thinking, which one is going to render whenever we have the path that's /post/1? And let's test that out right now. Here you saw that it matched the first post route. You might be wondering, how does React Router know which one to match if this right here can be an ID, because there is a value here that would match, but it also matches here at 1. Very simply, I'll tell you that React Router has a specificity concept to it. So it goes in order and it checks if routes match in an order. So first it wants to check, does it match with an index? If it doesn't, it then checks for a specific route, like one that was predefined. Like here we predefined 1. It's not a variable, it's not a parameter, it was predefined. So that has more priority than one that is not predefined and is a more dynamic. So React Router will always render predefined routes and give it more priority than a dynamic route. And obviously the one that gets the least amount of priority is the asterisk. That's the least important route. And let me just quickly show you something else. So you see here how when they go to /post, we're rendering this JSX right here. Let's say that we don't want the post to be inside this for some reason. There's another thing that we can do, and we can use index routes as a child of any route. So we can have the post route here, and let's define another route here. And we'll just call it index, and it renders a div that says, hi, go to a post to start posting, or whatever. That's not really important. What you probably might see where I'm going here, but when you go to /posts when nothing, it would render the index, and when you go to /post/1, it renders this down here, and that can be useful in so many situations. So now let's say a user goes to a route that doesn't quite exist. So /1/ I don't know / doesn't exist. That's gonna match with the star over here. What if you want it so that after a couple of seconds, it redirects them back to the /home? That's a behavior that exists in many sites already, and it's something that we can do using React Router. So to do that, I'm just gonna create a component here called notfound.jsx. Gonna create the template real quick, and I'm gonna render that component here, just like that. So now I'm gonna introduce you to the navigate component. So at the moment here, it renders not found, and here we see it on our screen, and we want to redirect the user back home. Here we can do that by just rendering a component called navigate, navigate spelled like that. And all it does is you specify a path in the to, and then here we type in /home. So now whenever a user goes to a path that matches with this component, it automatically redirects them to /home. So here we're gonna type a random path, and you're gonna see it's gonna take us back home immediately. There it goes. What if you wanna make it a little bit of a delay, let's say a couple seconds? Well, that's not a problem either. We can do that really easily. So I'm just gonna use the useEffect hook here, and I'm not gonna explain what useEffect does. That's for another video. I'm assuming you know what this does. And so we can use the useNavigate hook that React Router lets us use. So we'll get rid of the component, and we'll just do const navigate is equal to useNavigate. And so here, what you would do is maybe do a set timeout, right? And it takes a callback, and then the milliseconds would be maybe 1,000. So in 1 second, you would want to call the navigate hook, and it takes in as a prop a string, and the string takes in the path. So let's say we want to take them over to /home in 1 second. And here you pass in the function as a dependency. And so now let's test it out. We're going to go to /home / all these things. And see, for 1 second we were here, and then for another one we were redirected. And I can make this more dramatic by increasing that to 5 seconds. So when I go to a random route, here we are, 5 seconds are passing, and we're redirected home. And now that you've seen the navigate component and the use navigate hook, I'm going to show you another way to navigate users between pages. So that would be by using the link component. So over here in our home page, I'm going to render a link component from React Router, and inside it will say go to posts. And then in this component, let me just format that. In this component, it takes in a prop, and the prop takes a to, and it's basically to which route you want to navigate the user to, and we're going to navigate them to /posts. So now when they click on this that says go to posts, we're taken over to our posts route. And obviously you can do whatever logic you want. You can make this a string template literal, right? And then this can be JavaScript here. And then here you pass in like a number, right? And then that would be up here, const num set num. Just for an example, and let's say you have number 2, you could pass it in here, and when they go to /home and they click here, it takes them to /post/2, and we're actually not rendering anything here in our parent post because I deleted that to show you the index function, but we would just add that here, the outlet component. And then see, it says 2 and all of that good stuff. And when we go back home, we are taken back to that. So you might be starting to see the power of React Router and all its functionality. Now you're almost ready to start using React Router. I suggest you go ahead and watch my video on how to create a protected route. So how to make it so that a user cannot go to a route unless they're logged in. Because right now I can go to /home and I'm probably not logged in, and I can still go to that page. So I have a video on my channel. I'll put it in the card and in the description below, and it's going to show you exactly how to do that. And you might be wondering, how can I redirect a user back to the page they're trying to go to? So let's say I try to go to /home. I'm logged out, so I'm taken to the login screen. When I log back in, you want me to be taken back to /home where I was trying to go. I have another video called redirect after login. I'll also put it in the card and the description below. I really suggest you go ahead and watch those videos. It's going to give you everything you need to really start using React Router and have users being authenticated on the front end, and you're just going to be equipped with all the tools you need to really take advantage of this library to the fullest extent. I really hope you learned something and you enjoyed this video. If you have any suggestions, leave it in the comment sections, and I hope you have a great day. Have a good one.